In a quiet village, surrounded by vast and fertile rice fields, that morning a farmer started his day with enthusiasm. The sun had just risen, its light peeking from behind the hill, warming the rice field soil that was deliberately not flooded because fertilizer was going to be spread. Wearing a small hat that protected his head from the hot sun, he carried a bucket filled with urea fertilizer that he was ready to spread on the rice plants that had not yet grown well. His face was painted with fatigue, but also a strong determination to ensure that his rice plants got enough nutrition so that they could grow well. The distinctive aroma of urea fertilizer immediately wafted into the air. With agile hands, he began to take a handful of fertilizer and spread it on the ground. His movements were regular, calculated, and seemed to have become a habit that had stuck with him for years. The fertilizer floated in the air for a moment before falling to touch the dry ground that was waiting. Every time fertilizer was spread, a farmer stepped forward, slowly but surely. Every now and then he stopped, wiping the sweat that began to pour from his forehead. There was no sound other than the wind that rustled softly and the rustle of fertilizer falling to the ground. In the distance, small birds flew low, as if observing the farmer's hard work. "This land needs vitamins too," the farmer muttered softly to himself. He knew that without fertilizer, the rice he had planted might not grow well. Although his rice had not grown well, he believed that the nutrients he had given today would be provisions for the next few days. That hope was what kept him working, even though his body was tired and the natural conditions were unfriendly. He passed through the rice fields one by one. His movements were consistent, not a single speck of fertilizer was wasted. Every grain of fertilizer was an investment for the future, not only for his family, but also for the village community who depended on his harvest. Looking at the expanse of rice that was starting to grow well, the leaves moved slowly in the morning wind, as if welcoming his presence. The sound of trickling water flowing from the irrigation channel on the edge of the rice field became a natural rhythm that calmed the heart. The farmer took a deep breath, letting the freshness of the morning air fill his lungs. "This morning is so beautiful," he murmured softly, a thin smile etched on his face full of life lines. In between his work, his gaze was occasionally diverted by the scenery around him. In the distance, green hills stood firmly, framing the expansive rice fields. Small birds flew above the rice, occasionally perching on the slender stems, then flying again while chirping happily. He enjoyed every second of that moment. For him, being in the rice fields was the best way to be at one with nature. He felt calm, far from the hustle and bustle of city life full of busyness and noise. Here, there was only him, the rice plants, and nature that seemed to speak in silence. He felt that every leaf that moved, every sound of the wind that blew, was the language of nature inviting him to dialogue. As he continued his work, a gentle breeze blew, bringing the fragrant aroma of the rice field soil. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the touch of the wind on his skin. Working in this rice field is indeed hard, he thought, but there is nothing happier than seeing rice growing well in the land that we care for with love. The farmer remembered the moments in his childhood, when he accompanied his father in the same rice field. He learned how to hoe, plant, and care for rice patiently. Now, he was in that position, continuing his family tradition with pride. Not far from where he stood, several other farmers were also working. Some were checking the water channels, while others were pulling weeds between the rice plants. They waved to each other and exchanged smiles. Although they did not speak to each other, there was a strong sense of togetherness between them. The farmer felt that work in the rice fields was not only about cultivating the land, but also building relationships with fellow farmers who supported each other. The farmer smiled again. He knows that the journey of this rice is still long. There is still a lot of work to be done until the harvest time arrives. However, he does not feel burdened. Every step in this process is part of his meaningful life. He realizes that being a farmer is not just a job to earn a living, but also a calling to maintain harmony between humans and nature. The farmer looked once again at his vast expanse of rice fields. His heart was filled with gratitude. In this place, he found peace, hope, and happiness, and he continued his work. The rice fields that he had cared for with all his heart brought great hope for a bright future. Step by step he still took a walk in the middle of his rice field, his feet stepping on the loose and cold soil. It felt like therapy. Every now and then he would stop for a moment to rest, drink the cold coffee he brought from home, smoke a cigarette to relieve his tiredness. After resting for a moment, his energy had recovered and he immediately continued his work. Now he is spreading urea fertilizer again. He observes which parts are not even, then he will spread it again. His heart still feels happy because he can still take care of his sawa, which means he has hope that nature will give him. Until now, the harmony between nature and farmers is still felt. I love nature. Nature will give me what I need. This is the harmony between nature and humans. This is the natural beauty of my village. Thank you for watching my video. I hope it is entertaining and the view can refresh you.